Hi everyone. Thank you, Sharon. This is amazing. Okay, wait a second. Not sure why, but the links for some reason wouldn't. Oh yeah, no, that's it. Well, just spam you. I'm just spamming you on the chat a little bit. Um, and she does. Your mom doesn't look like she's 97. Definitely not. Amazing, honestly. Yeah. Okay, that's it. So the chat is off. Yeah, there's a lot of links. I know. That's it. So that's the map I showed you. I have shown you many times. So our exploration of that side of Saint Petersburg started with the Trinity Bridge and the Petrograd side, this Art Nouveau Avenue. But it's now we are way further now, and where the red pin is, Kamenniy Island or the Stone Island. That's exactly the island we're exploring. And as you can see, there are actually several islands, and there are smaller islands there. And this area was basically called in the 19th and early 20th century the islands, Ostrova. So for aristocrats, and I would say in general for people of St. Petersburg, middle class, it was kind of a code. Let's go to the island. That basically meant let's go for a picnic. Let's go to one of those restaurants. Let's go to the yacht club and things like that. So let's go have fun. And obviously, not every citizen could afford that. So that's why I'm talking about the middle class and obviously aristocracy. That's basically who could afford that. And what we're going to see tonight is I would say, the what's left of that glorious past. And that's quite a lot. Unfortunately, most of those houses are inaccessible now, and there are no museums. And well, you may remember why, because in the Soviet times, those beautiful houses became um, well, the houses that once belonged to aristocrats or the Romanovs, they were expropriated from them and turned into the so-called resorts for the working people. And many of them were turned into kind of resorts for the special people, that is the KGB, and also the official residences of the Soviet elite and Soviet administration, not just the city's administration, not just Leningrad, but also the one from Moscow. In the 1930s, it still looked like a countryside. This is the the sand embankment, Песочная набережная, the 30s. It still looks just like a countryside, even like a forest, but uh, as early as the 1700s, that is 18th century, there would be some constructions, mainly royal palaces. So 1700s is royal palaces. And right now, as we have crossed um, the Kamenny, the stone bridge, we are now on the stone island. To the right-hand side, you see one of the service buildings that used to be within the complex of the Kamenny Palace, or the Stone Island Palace that was built to commission of Catherine the Great. And it's to the right-hand side. You can't see it, but it's actually behind this residential building, the pink one. So the palace is a little bit behind, and it's a huge one. We visited it, by the way. We did a short virtual tour because I had a little video of that, and that's what it looks like. So this is by far the oldest building on the island, and it just the entire island used to belong to the Romanovs. But then, you know, there will be some territories given to the nobility. So that they would build there, and they did build there their own summer houses, and I would say, pruned and developed the territory around it. So one of the oldest from the 18th century is also this house of Peter Oldenburg. Now it's a boutique hotel. It's a wooden architecture, but it's not a museum, so it's kind of a monument, but it was recreated because the original building was in a really bad condition. As I showed you from the map, you could see that there were multiple rivers, several armlets of the Neva River, just going through the entire island, and that's why there are a lot of bridges. This is photos from the Soviet times. People are just enjoying themselves in the nature, and it's basically like 20 minutes drive from the center, from the Nevsky Avenue, but it doesn't feel like you are in the almost in the city center. It feels like you are somewhere far, but yeah, it is what it is. So we carry on, and the building ahead of us, this pink one, it may seem as a stone building, but in fact, it's not a stone building at all. And this is also one of the oldest wooden buildings in the Stone Island, and I would say, even the entire city. Just hold on a second. There's one viewer that cannot access the tour. Let me just send her the link. Sorry, dears. I know it's sometimes challenging to access through Eventbrite. That's why, as you know, I always share the direct links for Zoom. I no longer publish them on Eventbrite descriptions, but on the newsletter and also on the calendars that we have from Facebook. I share those direct links, but I don't post them on Eventbrite because we have been frequently visited by bots. That's why I'm not doing that anymore. And if you have difficulty finding the direct links, just let me know, and I will I will tell you exactly where to find them. So from here, this Stone Island theater doesn't look like a wooden building. It looks like a stone theater on a stone island. But this is just a trick. This is just a plaster work. In fact, the building is wooden. Originally, it was built in 1827, and it's still a building from the 1827, by the way. It's not a big building, and well, it doesn't look like a palace exactly, but it doesn't look like a theater. It looks small for a theater. However, it was a theater, and the theater was built mostly for the Romanovs and for the elite. Oh, well, the bot is here. Goodbye. Speak of the devil. Now, sorry for that. Let's get back on the tour. Yeah. Thank you, Sharon. He's done with. Well, because it was for a long time just aristocrats, just the Romanovs and several aristocratic families. And because obviously back then there were no bridges, and you may remember my previous tours of that area told you that the entire area, that side of the city, started to develop only after the bridge was constructed that connected the mainland, so to speak, with these lands, with these islands. So it felt like wilderness. It felt like far from everything. And during the summertime, Romanovs and aristocrats wanted to have their fun. And the biggest kind of fun back then was theater. No Netflix, no internet, nothing, no TikTok. So that was the theater. And 1827, this building was constructed, but because it was actually built within several months. It was just wooden. You see, the building is really small. There were not even dressing room for the actors. The actors would be coming already dressed up and prepped for the performance, just like that. And it didn't feel like the proper theater. It felt more like some small, uh, kind of a hobby club or something like that, but it does have a stage. I have some photos. The building was restored several years ago for over, actually for several decades. It was just standing there under conservation. And to be honest, people thought that the building would just dilapidate and long gone. But for some reason, that didn't happen. And the big drama theater took charge of the building, of the restoration, and it's now kind of a small stage of the big drama theater. If you look at this column, you can actually see the wooden, well, the wooden blocks. So in this cracks. So even the columns are all done with the woodwork. And well, this is just plaster imitation of the brick, but it's actually a wooden building, and it's still wooden. And it's not just the one built in you, but it is, and you can see that, right? And now you can see that actually, no, this is the paint and the plaster work, just that. So that's the trick, and it's still the theater. Yes, it's still theater, and it still looks lovely. It reopened several years ago, in fact, only, and unfortunately, I haven't been there. It's a shame, honestly. It's a shame. I would have taken tons of photographs, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. What can I say? Maybe next time, next time. But next to this theater is an interesting fence, like really opulent, even just a fence, and it looks different, right, from the early 1800s building. I'm sorry, there's something wrong with my throat tonight. I don't know if I'll be able to speak by the fourth tour to get myself together. So this house belonged to Countess Maria Kleinmichel. She married Mr. Kamenniy, who was a German national, and he was a merchant. As you know, as you remember from my multiple tours of Saint Petersburg, there were a lot of European businesses operating in the Russian Empire, especially in the end of the 19th century, turn of the 20th century. And the Kleinmichel were, I would say, a very well-off family involved with railroad construction and also many other things. So they built for themselves quite a house. And it looks very eclectic and whimsical and neo-Gothic and whatnot. Actually, there are two buildings together. The part of the building to the right, which kind of it looks detached, but actually the two buildings attached together. It was the oldest part, and it belonged to Kleinmichel family. But the one to the left, with the tower and everything, it was built a little later, and it was the house of the Cinizelli family. This is the family that owned the very first and the oldest private circus in an Italian family, Cinizelli. So they spent summertime in this house. Later on, by the way, this building will dilapidate and then rebuilt again. So I have tons of old photographs. Uh, it looks a bit weird. I mean, the both buildings, but as you may have noticed, the Clay Micheli eventually decided to change the facade of her house to match the amazing, I would say, really, I would say, quite breathtaking in exterior of the Cinizelli building. You see, that's what she did. So she rebuilt it, and now it looks more like a castle, and it looks a lot more, I would say, it matches the vibe in a way. So this is kind of an eclectical neo-Gothic something combo. And well, nobody remembers Cinizelli family anymore, in fact. So they say it's the Klein Michel house. Unfortunately, you see the fence, and it's not just this metal fence, but it's also that big um plastic, but it's kind of a in kind of plastic fence, very strong one. In the Yeah, over there in the fence, you can see the initials, Maria Klein Michel. I'm sure you can see letter M, and you maybe can see letter K, but I'm not sure if you can. But well, yeah, it's there. You have to trust me. So the uh, the best way to look at these buildings is from a distance. So from here, if you stand next to the theater, you can see the spire. So that's actually the new part of the building that you can see because the trees are quite tall. You don't see much behind them. So as I said, the part of the Chinizeli house it was destroyed in the Soviet times, and then in the after the 90s it was built again. So it's kind of the new part just attached to the old house of the Klein-Michel family. That's basically how it works. The amazing thing about the Klein-Michels is that Maria Klein-Michel was a socialite. Well, she looks very modest in her young photographs, but the older she got, I would say, the more sophisticated she looked, and the more opulent and fantabulous parties she would throw. And this house was known as the big party house of the Klein-Michel family. And also, it was one of the most opulent country houses. Obviously, we're not talking about the Romanovs' property, but like the merchant property. And well, this looks like somewhere in Europe, right? It looks just like a small um, gingerbread castle somewhere in Europe, but no. And because Maria Klein-Michel was a socialite, and because she could afford like showing off and throwing really just big parties and masquerade, she was she allowed a photo shoot from one of the glossy magazines that was popular in the imperial times. Well, it's something like inviting a, I don't know, New Yorker journalist to your Hamptons residence or something like that. So, and obviously it was another opportunity to show off and let the entire city know how rich you are. So, but that's why we have photographs. So all the rooms were photographed, and we can see the artworks, we can see the expensive furniture and the amazing taste, obviously, of Maria Klein-Michel. So, as I said, Klein-Michel were Germans. I mean, well, they had Russian, had a German last name, and well, all those parties that she threw. I mean, obviously, not everyone was invited, and a lot more people wanted to be invited, but they were not. So, when the First World War started, evil tongues started spreading the rumors that Maria Klein-Michel at those parties actually, well, it was kind of a cover-up. In fact, it was the gathering of the supporters of Germany in the First World War, and Maria Klein-Michel was a German spy. They claimed that she was a German spy, and you know, and all that. I guess you can just figure out what kind of things they were saying. So she felt quite under attack, but she seemed to shake it off. But then the revolution happened, and obviously this house was taken away from her, and she went to Petrograd, right? That is Saint Petersburg, which was renamed into Petrograd when the First World War started, just not to sound German, because the name of the city, St. Petersburg, sounded too German. And they just renamed it into Petrograd, which means the same, but not in German words, but in Russian words. And then Leningrad, as you know, I'm just reminding you because not everyone may have joined my previous tours, and so that's why I'm just saying this to you. She was staying in Petrograd. She knew that it was only a matter of time before the Bolsheviks, come after her and push her out of her own mansion palace on Tchaikovsky Street, not far from Nevsky Avenue. By the way, I'm sharing also a lot of photographs from the famous Kamenniy parties. This is a masquerade, um, Arabic night. Oh, I mean, just look at all that. Just the look at all those diamonds, silks, all these expensive costumes. Oh, they had so much fun. The musicians, the waiters. I mean, you kind of get the scale, right? So, and how rich she was. And she threw those parties like regularly. So what Clay Michel actually did, I'm going to pause here for a while. This is another masquerade, like 19th century thing. So, after the revolution, she put a big banner on her house in Petrograd that the house had been expropriated by Petrosoviet. That was the administration of Petrograd, run by Bolsheviks already. Uh, Maria Klein-Michel had been arrested, and do not enter the building. And that's how she bought herself some time. And she managed to pack up, and she took some jewelry with her and some other precious items that helped her get by in Europe. So she escaped through the Swedish embassy. So that's how she escaped. And obviously the Bolsheviks were really angry, but they couldn't do anything. She was no longer there, but they made sure they would make use of her property um, to the full, I would say. Yep. So this is the photo, by the way, taken in the Second World War times. It's just a random officer next to the building. And I think this is the probably the one of the very few photographs we have before the trees got too big, and also a lot of trees were planted in the modern times because the people who own these buildings now, they want to make sure you don't see anything. So the one of the biggest problems with the Stone Island is that just opulent architecture cannot be seen because they don't want us to see that. If these buildings can be monuments, they can be listed, and many of them are. By the way, in this photo, as you can see, the Chinizeli part is missing. That's the Soviet photo. So it just fell apart. It just fell into disrepair. It was built from scratch and new in the 2000s. In the Soviet times, by the way, the Klein house was some sort of a kind of a local club for the activities of the workers, that would come to the Stone Island for different resort activities, right? It was basically a resort place for the workers. There were several resorts. We call them sanatorium, but I know this is not the word you would use in English, so it means a little bit different things. So, but there were several sanatoriums, and this was kind of a big club, a hobby club where concerts were held and different activities were run. So that was in the Klein house. So because it was in use, they upkept the building, but the Chinizeli part kind of was neglected and eventually fell into disrepair. So this is the photo from Wikipedia, where the trees are still not so big, and you can see a little bit of it, but that's from a different side too. It's not from that facade. So that's the Stone Island Theater, Kamenasovsky Theater, Stone Island Theater, and we go on. So another look from here. Well, again, as I told you, the best way to see what's there behind those trees and bushes is from a distance, but you kind of have an idea. And some more illustrations of the Stone Island Theater. And as you can see, this is the old photograph. In this photograph, you do not see the Klein house, but you can see quite a modest house to the right, the wooden one that just belonged to someone. And to the left, you can see a little bit of the new dacha that belonged to the Romanov that was built in mid 19th century. But we spoke about it last time. I just kind of want to remind you where we are, what we have seen by now. Another photo from the internet, um, and from a distance. I mean from another side. And we go on. So the Klein House, the Stone Theater is behind us. Natalie, thank you so much for the tips. And now we are walking along the river. And actually, there are important sites from both sides. And unfortunately, the building to the right can almost not be seen because, well, that's the best you can see. And if you approach, you will see even less because the fence is really high. So, but you're gonna have to trust me. So what we're going to see is a beautiful palace that belonged to the Polovtsev family. Polovtsov, sometimes it's pronounced and spelled, but Polovtsev is I would say the one that I'm used to best. And this looks like a neoclassical palace. It's not really a house, it's a palace. Needless to say, it was a well-off family. Originally, however, it was called the Stieglitz house because it belonged to Baron von Stieglitz, who actually was a German Jew, but he converted to Lutheran faith, and that's how he managed to build an incredible career. He was one of the first investors in the railroad construction, and I did mention him on some of my tours. There is also a Stieglitz Applied Art Academy in St. Petersburg yet. So he owned a big plot of land, and he had a house here. Originally, that's the Stieglitz house, and later on, the house would be rebuilt into this neoclassical palazzo, like very Palladian palazzo, I would say. So Alexander von Stieglitz, that's what he looked like. So he became one of the most influential figures in St. Petersburg, and he had everything he wanted, but he wanted a daughter. And one day, rumors, it's not, first it was rumors, but now it's, I would say, um, well, we can't really verify that, but historians kind of come along that that's exactly what happened. So one day, when von Stieglitz was at this very country house, he saw a basket by the door, and there was a newborn there with a small letter. So when it was written, please take care of this girl. It was in June, and it was a baby girl. So Stiglitz took the girl and adopted the girl, and well, that's how she got her last name. She wasn't given the last name of Stiglitz, she was given the last name Iyuniva, because in Russian, June is Iyun. So Nadezhda Iyuniva, like hope of June, something like that. So because this is how all his hopes and dreams to have a girl, to have a daughter, kind of came true. But he knew this wasn't just a baby girl that was, I don't know, well, born to a peasant mother. No, the girl was all swaddled in the beautiful uh, lace, something that was just very beautiful, ornate, and just expensive basket. And he immediately realized that it was not just a child, but it must have been, I don't know, he just like put two and two together, and he realized, he figured out it must have been an illegitimate child of one of the Romanovs womanizers, Grand Duke Mikhail Pavlovich. who was a younger brother of Nicholas the First, the emperor, who was infamous for his affairs, with some women of a lower status. And that was exactly that story. And Stiglitz knew that he was chosen by Mikhail Pavlovich himself. Stiglitz was, as I said, he was a very influential figure, and he was a close friend of Nicholas I himself. And as you remember, as you may remember, and if not, I will just remind you very quickly that it was exactly during the reign of Nicholas I when the railroad construction actually was launched, as well as the bridges construction, like metal bridge construction. So Schlegel just happened to be there at the right place at the right time, and the emperor knew very well that Stiglitz really wanted to have a daughter, so he must have figured out it was exactly Nicholas's choice to give the baby girl of his younger brother, inconsiderate brother, to Stiglitz because he knew the girl would be given the best. And that's exactly what happened. We don't have good illustrations of what the Stiglitz house looked like because, as I said, this Palladian style palazzo is already the late 19th century architecture, or well, actually, it's sorry, I'm wrong. It's like early 1900s or the early 20th century building. But we have this watercolor illustration of what the one of the biggest rooms in the palace looked like. So, and then Nadezhda Yuniva, who grew up into a lovely girl. Obviously, she looked royal, like her face and everything. She looked noble, noble. She married Alexander Polovtsev, who was also a very rich man, and they were given this summer house, well, for the decision to rebuild this villa into what we see now. We have some photographs which were mostly taken during the Soviet time because well, after the revolution, it was nationalized, obviously, and it became one of the sanatoriums for the working class people. And look at these photos. I mean, I honestly don't understand how this was possible, but that's what happened. Look at all these tapestries. Obviously, they were taken from the walls, and but but the walls, the parquet floors, the furniture remain. The chandeliers remain. I mean, you kind of have an idea, right, of all this opulence. And well, um, also I will provide some photos taken in the Soviet times, but I just wanted to see how enormous the residence was. I mean, it still is, but there's no access to it again because it belongs most probably to some of the FSB, KGB facility. Could be kind of a convention center. I don't know. A resort for the workers of the KGB. So some more portraits of Nadezhda Yuneva. So she was remembered by her compatriots, or by her, sorry, but by her contemporaries as a lovely, kind-hearted, cheeky personality. And well, I mean, she looks like it, and she looks very noble, beautiful, and well, she was given the best. It's like they couldn't have found a better parents for the child. Did she know that she was of the Romanovs? Yes, she did, but obviously nobody spoke about it openly. This was not. Mm, thank you so much for the coffee. Here it doesn't say who, but I will see later on when I log in the app and I will see the email. So thank you so much. So, and speaking of Polovtsev, Alexander Polovtsev, I have already mentioned him on one of the tours. So, since Kamenniy Island, the Stone Island, is only a summer residence, so all these people had several other residences, proper winter residence. And the same story with the Polovtsev. So with Nadezhda Yuneva, they had several children, and the oldest one was Alexander. So he was Alexander Alexandrovich Jr., Alexander Polovtsev Jr., and he inherited basically his father's business and the property and the summer house too. But the winter house looked like that. And this building may be familiar to you because I showed it on one of my tours, on one of my wedding tours. So in the house of Polovtsev, my husband and I, Misha, we had a wedding party. And I cannot but show you some photos from the wedding. Sorry, just to see the interior. Just imagine all that. So that's us. And just look at that. Or that. So you kind of have an idea, right, of the opulence. So that's the scale of the Polovtsev family. This is the photo from the Soviet times. By the way, in the early 1920s, the tapestries were still there. They would be removed a little later. I read somewhere that one of the workers, uh, either intentionally or unintentionally, but just put out the cigarette on one of the tapestries. I'm not sure whether it is true or just, I don't know, a fake thing, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised too much. I mean, look at these people. They're just at the canteen, and well, those are very different faces. I don't mean to say they look bad or anything, but those are just different people, right? They did not appreciate much what they saw, where they were, and obviously they lived. They were raised with hatred towards aristocracy. So what do we expect? And the Bolsheviks were very good at their propaganda, obviously. Well, this is a lovely photo. This is the photo from the Soviet times as well. How do I know? Because the bust of Lenin gives itself away. Other than that, it looks just like at times of Polovtsev themselves. By the way, Alexander Polovtsev, um, um, he during the early Soviet period was appointed in charge of all the former aristocratic property, and he would be the kind of the chief of the committee that would be distributing the aristocratic property among different Soviet institutions. He dealt with the expropriated items, and he was one of the people who would be um, distributing this among the different museums and everything. So, and his house in Saint Petersburg, where we had our party, became the kind of a concert hall of the architects of Leningrad. And he was in charge of it for some time. Well, an interesting family, an interesting story, but we need to go on. So, and yes, it's just some, I'm not sure what's going on in this picture, but it looks like the girl to the left, I don't know, ate something funny. I'm not sure does she have cramps or any, I don't know. So, but I mean, is she having cramps or just stomach ache? But yeah, well, these are just girls enjoyed themselves, and you see the Soviet logo on the top of the doorway. So yeah, this is the photos taken in the 50s, as far as I understand. And I have been able to find some interior photos. This is not my photos; they are published in the open archives where anyone can find these photos. It's not like I'm stealing from a private collection. So the photo belonged to a local architect who somehow was given access to this residence, which definitely belongs to some facility affiliated with the KGB or FSB, what you call it now. I'm not sure whether those are the original tapestries. That's a good question. Definitely, well, probably not, but nevertheless. And so to the right-hand side is the Polovtsev residence. And To the left-hand side, you see one of the armlets of the Neva River, and on the other shore, you see another island. This is a Yelagin Island and the Yelagin Palace. Surprise, surprise, another palace, which also was the Romanov property in the 19th and 20th century. As we go along the shore, you see there's the wooden bulks, right, kind of hammered into the bottom. That's exactly how they would secure the land and the shore from the water erosion. Well, these are, I'm not sure how old or how new these wooden vaults are. It's really hard to tell, but well, this is the old technology known from the 19th century, basically. This is how they protected the shoreline from erosion. And that's the Yelagan Island. I have done a series of tours about the Yelagan Island a long time ago. Uh, so you may need a refresher. So I've just decided to share with you a couple of photographs. We are not going there now. Technically speaking, it's not a stone island. This is a Yelagan Island. As I said, it's one of those islands, right? So islands. Let's go to the islands. In the beginning of the tour, I said that this was kind of a code word, like let's go have some fun to the islands. Let's just I don't know, roll into a Cuba restaurant. It's one of the fanciest restaurants. Let's just eat till we doze off and drink till we forget ourselves, and let's just flush down the money of our parents or whatever. So that was kind of that signal. Let's go have some fun and spend it like no other. And the Yelagan Islands. So the Yelagan Palace, hence, well, the Yelagan Island, hence the name of the Yelagan Palace. And it's just named after one of the mm, officials during times of Catherine the Great. But what matters is that in the 19th century, end of the 19th century, it became a favorite summer residence of the mother to Nicholas II Empress, Dowager Empress at that time already, Maria Fedorovna. And she dotted this residence. Her grandchildren, that is the children of Nicholas II, liked to come here and spend some summertime. It was definitely closer than that's Nicholas II and his mom, as you can see. So it was definitely closer than Alexander Palace, than Alexandria, the one else I'm taking you to in 30, 40 minutes from now. And this was kind of a cozy nook for the summertime, as I said. But when the First World War started, Maria Fedorovna decided to turn the entire building into the hospital, and she moved to the city, to Anichkov Palace. And this was the hospital during the First World War times. And I'm sharing a couple of old photographs. This is Nicholas II with his mom to the right. I'm not sure which of the daughters this is, but the woman next to the girl is Alexandra Fedorovna, the wife. And this must be Tsarevich Alexei himself, but we don't see his face, but I assume that's him. Kids loved having picnics with their grandma. Yes, that's Tsarevich Alexei and the two of the Romanovs, so the two daughters. That's, I believe, Olga and Tatiana. Yes, this is Olga and Tatiana. And do I have to say that during the Soviet period it was a sanatorium as well? A resort for the workers. That's basically it. But however, this is a museum. This is the official Romanov residence that was turned into a museum in the Soviet times, and it still is. And we did a tour around that uh, palace and around in the park. The recording is available for my sponsors, like 900 other videos. And yeah, so That's basically it for now. Let me open the chat. Sorry for the tech issues. Hopefully, after I reconnected, the connectivity got better. At least I hope so. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I'm not going to spam the entire chat, but I'm definitely going to share the link for the last tour for tonight. That is Alexandra Romanov Palace residence. It's more than just one palace. There are actually a series of smaller cottages, and we're going to see the most opulent of them. But it's like they're all of them are quite special. So the link is here. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you. And for tomorrow, as I said, I'm taking you on a live walk into Tbilisi, and we are kind of going to visit an interesting, inaccessible historic building. I was not given permission to take you there on a live stream for a big reason. I will explain on the tour. But when I was there myself, I filmed it for us anyway, and I'm going to show it to you. I haven't shown it anywhere on my socials yet. So it's going to be a premiere. You're going to love it. You're going to absolutely love it, I promise. And then we're going to see a couple of more Art Nouveau buildings, one kind of a Romanov palace, and I mean palace. Okay, it would belong to a family that was related to the Romanovs through Nicholas the First. And yeah, so I think this is a good enough teaser for tomorrow. So if you can, please join. I'll be happy to see you all, of course. Who were the actors that performed in the small theater? Oh, those were the same actors that performed in all the royal theaters. Actually, there was only one theater in 1827, the one in the Hermitage Theater. But I would say in the first half of the 19th century, this is when other theaters started to be formed. And well, those were just the same theater actors from Saint Petersburg. Just that. Your neighbors are having a loud party. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I guess the story about Kamenniy and her masquerade kind of fits in. I'm sure Kamenniy had much better parties than your neighbors. I'm sure. Yeah, but she was not an agent of Germany, that's for sure. Like historians all claim that she had nothing to do with it. And the fact that she did not come to Germany also speaks for itself. Well, anyway, but as you know, many of the, I would say, aristocrats were uh, kind of accused falsely of connections with Germany. So not all of them actually were involved, that's for sure. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me tonight. As you know, I appreciate your support. So you can send me a PayPal donation. You could buy me a coffee or coffees, depending on like in how generous mode you are in. And I'm sharing here the link for my YouTube where you can catch up with the recordings of the tours that you missed. Well, I haven't shared any yet, but the last weekend tours are still there, and these tours gonna be added shortly. I mean, the ones that I have already done, including this recording. And on my website, you can find a lot more links because tons of the tours are already up. But I'm going to share just one more link. That is the next episode for the Stone Island. We have some. Thank you so much to Maxwell for the tip. There you go. So the fourth episode, we're gonna see a lot more neo-Gothic and Art Nouveau architecture. But it's more than just that. So as you see, it's been quite eclectic. We started with the Classicism building, with the Classicism building. Then we switched to some eclectic, and then again Palladian style villa, built, rebuilt multiple times. So yeah, Dolly, thank you so much. Thank you. It's great to be in your calendars. It's kind of a good place to be in. Thank you, everyone. And I will see you, at least some of you, in 30 minutes from now on a different Zoom, a different link. You have it all here. And I'll see you in Alexandria. Thank you so much. And tomorrow, Tbilisi, Alexander Pushkin, and the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Bye bye.